Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, Dental 18 listeners. This is Kiera, and I have the one and only Ashley Joves, Little Black Dress podcast. We're doing a little crossover podcast between the two podcasts today. And we were, shooting the breeze before we hit record and realized we just need to hit record because this is real life, truly talking about who business owners are behind the scenes and who people are behind the scenes. And so, Ashley, welcome to the show. How are you today? Real talk, Ashley.
Well, welcome. I just said welcome. I'm so used to hosting. Welcome to the show.
Host.
No,
do it because it's a crossover.
No,
so
it's a crossover. Well, welcome to another episode of Little Black Dress Pod, ladies and gents. We have the one and only Kiera Dent of Dental A-Team, guys. This is going to be such a fun recording because before we hit record, Kiera asked me how I'm doing, and I asked her, do you want the real version or the social media version? And she's like, real, always, always. And that's why it's always so good to have these one-on-one conversations, Kiera. I just adore you. Every time I talk with you, it's like a therapy session and a very needed therapy session. So we're gonna pull back the curtains today. We're gonna talk about all the things, practice, everything. Oh man. Yeah, it's been a lot.
Yeah. And I asked you because I think in like friendships and in business, I feel there's a yin and a yang. And I think sometimes as business owners, I don't want to come to the table and be like, hey, here's my dirty laundry, Ashley. But I feel like with you and me, when you've got real friends, because in business, you can have real friends and then you can have your social media friends. And that's why when you're like real version or social media, I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want social media, Ashley. I want Ashley and Kiera. And yeah, I know we're recording this for the world, but at the end of the day, it's you and me talking as friends and talking as coworkers and talking as colleagues in the industry, because I feel so often we isolate as business people. We're so like, I need to be this when I'm like, BS. We need to be us because we need people to help. We need to ask for that. We need to have friends that can to rally us. And I feel the same way. There are many times. I mean, let's go back to the podcast I did with you a long time ago about my divorce and anorexia and suicide. Like, this is real. And I don't think people realize the real side, which is why I love podcasting with you. So, Ashley, how is Ashley for real today?
Ashley for real. So, overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is just a really good word for it. We just opened this second office, this beautiful location, my dream practice, everything I could want and then some. It took 2 years to build. So much blood, sweat, and tears went into this, and I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details, but at the time that we are supposed to be celebrating and just, commemorating this occasion, I just feel like I am dropping the ball in so many different areas of my life.
Ashley, why do you think it is that way? Because I feel that way a ton when we've got these big events or big things or things that are supposed to be these huge milestones. And I'm curious, is it like we put so much hype and expectation on us to be a certain way? Or is it truly there's just a lot going on that we didn't even know was going to hit us? Or is it like a combination of all and or other things that we don't even know? Because I feel the same way. You hit these events and I'm like, I should be happy. This should be the best day of my life. It's like weddings, right? I remember someone gave me good advice for my wedding and they said, Kiera, just enjoy the day. And I'm so thankful for that because I think I would have stressed out of my mind and not even enjoyed half of the day. And I'm like, you have this beautiful practice, Ashley. You have everything you've been working towards. But is it like that there's so much expectation, or is it that we just don't even know how to handle the new version of you? And like, I feel like it's the sloughing off and becoming a new version of you that's also very painful to become who you need to be to now own two practices and to manage two practices and to have a bigger team. Like, what's kind of your take on all of that? I have obviously my own thoughts around it, but it's just kind of an exploration as to, because I think it's real. And I think so many people like, you have the making of group that I love to be a part of. And how many people in there are so excited to build their practices and to do their dream. And then they get it and they hate their life, like
Mm-hmm.
hate, and they're depressed and they want to give it up. And so I'm like, it's not you, it's not special to you. You're feeling it right now, but it's everywhere. And I'm curious as to why we feel that way. I
Okay,
mean,
so
you're in it right now. So
how
what's your
long do
kind
we
of,
have? How long do
we
we
got
have
all
to
day,
ask
Ashley. I think Ryan
that?
can wait. We have another one with him. He can wait. We got time, Ashley.
I think you basically hit the head. Wait, what? The nail on the head? The head on the
Yeah.
nail?
Nail on the head for
You know the
sure.
saying. The nail on the head. It's basically everything that you just pointed out. It's this expectations versus reality, right? I've hyped up this practice in my mind, and that it's going to go seamless, but it's also adding that extra layer of pressure on me because yes, the first time we built Smiling Co, we already had people watching what we were doing, and now there's even more people watching what we were doing. But also just the
Mm-hmm.
pressures I put on myself. Like in my head, I'm thinking I am gonna hit the ground running. We're gonna have XYZ amount of patients from day one. Everything's going to be smooth sailing. And it's so not the case. Like we stumble and at the new practice, I changed everything. We had a different software integration. We had different x-rays. We had different chairs. All of the things that I put in Smiling Co 1, I did not take with Smiling Co 2. So that is definitely a change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Navigating how it is running two practices. Like now I have
Yeah.
to divide my team who loves being together. Now it's basically like a breakup. They're only seeing
Mm-hmm.
their colleagues every now and then when we have team meetings. So that is definitely put a damper on the mood and motivation of the team. Like I went into Folsom yesterday because I haven't been there. I haven't been there because I've been so focused on getting our new baby up and running. And to describe the level of energy was just, it did not feel the same. And you could just tell that this team that was once engaged and thriving was feeling neglected and feeling like, well, and I actually spoke with one of the team members and she said, it feels like we're the neglected step, uh, redheaded stepchild. Like all the bells and whistles went to the first practice and all the energy went with it. And here we are not really knowing how to navigate communication between the offices. So morale is definitely down in the first location. And when morale is down, as I learned from 5 amazing days at Tony Robbins, what is going to drive profitability is the engagement of the team. So if the team is not engaged, profitability is going to suffer. So I'm navigating that while now having overhead for two practices.
Mm-hmm.
So just,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everything is on my shoulders because the last thing I want to do is cut hours or cut, anything. Like I have to remind myself
Sure.
like this is just growing pains. This is a moment in time. We are still an infant in the new practice and we're still navigating all these different things, like all the changes, and change is
Mm-hmm.
never easy.
Yeah. I think you said so many things that, and of course, I fall right into consultant mode. Like, I'm like, all right, Ashley, we're going to fix this. I got solutions. Like, let's,
Yes,
but I think,
yes.
I think a couple of things, it's funny. You and I, are little Tony Robbins fans. You asked me
Yes.
how it was. You went to Business Mastery. I was so excited you went to Business Mastery. And I was watching another one where Tony's wife Sage put on Unstoppable Women. I was just curious. I love to watch these virtual events to make us better for Dental A Team. And there was a quote, and I stuck it on my computer right here, and I'm looking at it. And this is something that I feel, Ashley, we as a society need to learn more of is fall in love with what is. We fall in love when we think it's going to be this way, but it's like, how can we fall in love with what is? How can you fall in love right now with this mess and this chaos? How can we set that example for our teams to fall in love with what is? Like the morale being down, yeah, it's like we just brought in a brand new baby into the family. Of course, there's going to be shifting. Of course, there's going to be changing, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean we need to fall apart at the seams. And so, falling in love with what is, I love that because it kind of gave me this like, whew, all right, like I don't have to have it to be perfect to enjoy it. I can fall in love with what is right now, right here, right today. I can fall in love with the growth process of me. And I remember I had another coach tell me one time, she said, Kiera, who you are today is not who you need to be to sustain these new projects you're taking. So she's like, it is painful when you have to slough off the old version of you. Like the Ashley Hovas today is not the Ashley Hovas that's going to run two practices successfully. Like that version of you has got to die off, and this new version of you is being created right now as we speak, but we forget that there's a process to be from here and go to here. And we think
Mm-hmm.
it should happen overnight. And that because we're these successful business owners, we should already know the path. And it's like we've forgotten to fall in love with learning. We've forgotten to fall in love with the failures. We've forgotten to fall in love with it being hard because that struggle is ultimately what gives us the success. But yet we want all the success without the struggle. And I'm like, there is beauty in the mess, there's beauty in the
Mm-hmm.
chaos. And so with teams, I also think as leaders, when we can show up as out of like, listen, this is freaking hard. Like I'm having a hard time. But I also feel as leaders, something I'm learning, like I just had a identity moment, and my whole team, like I was super sick for our team's retreat, and they all flew in. They're within 3 minutes of my house, and I'm so sick that I'm in bed and they're running a retreat without me. And I'm like, Mom, is this what it feels like when you drop your kids off at school and you don't feel like you're needed anymore? And she's like, yes, like you need to be a part of the Boohoo Breakfast Club. And I'm like, please. But I think like I had this moment of realizing you got to have a team that can do a lot because you as one person can't do it all. And even if you could, you're not going to be as successful as having set people. And so it's really like taking a step back. What is on my shoulders? What is that overwhelm? And truly, who are the people I need to bring into play that can elevate? Like I had Shelby as my right hand, but the company's getting way bigger. And Shelby's skill set, we both talked about it. We both knew Shelby needed a mentor that could teach her how to run a like very substantial business that's across platforms. Well, Shelby's my right hand and has helped me through so much. Britt, unexpectedly, we were trying to hire somebody else, and then Britt happened to just appear out of nowhere on our team. Britt's a wizard at operations, and Britt sees further down the line, and Britt can build all these things that I used to have to take on. And so it's really looking inside your team and or who do you need to hire while also making it fun. So for me, when I see this and I see new owners taking it on, is one, realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. And like, let's fall in love with what is today. So that's number one. Number two is, girl, you got to get some of this stuff off the shoulders because you're right. You can't take it all in. And let's see what can we control versus what's a story versus what's fact. Like there's a lot of stories running on of I should do this, I should do that, I should do this. And it's like, whoa, 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 let's scale it back. What's real and what do we actually need to hit that's realistic? Not like what our idealistic goals are, but what are our realistic goals that don't cause you stress and chaos, but they're still going to keep us profitable. I also say with new practices, I call it a 3 to 6 month shakeout. Like I don't expect a practice to be profitable for 6 months after opening to 12 months. It's very normal. It's very real. We've got the capital in there. And as long as we can baseline it, high five, you're doing great. And let's pull off all that stress of excess. But you've gone from profitable business is rocking and rolling to brand new baby and it's sucking the cash. And you're like, what am I supposed to do? We hit this
Mm-hmm.
panic mode. You know how to run a business. Remind yourself you know how to run a business and you're not going to fail. And every answer is within you. Like, period. Like, cut the failure out. Whomever's sitting in your head telling you that you're failing, like, thank you. You can go sit on the stairs. You're not helping me. And we're going to go for who can help me. And then from there, it's really like, let's build up this leadership team. Let's have the honest conversations. You are not going to make every team member happy. And I think as leaders, we have to realize that's okay. As a
Mm-hmm.
CEO, your number one job is to make sure the business is protected and running. That's number one. And then from there, people are either going to follow you or they're going to leave. And it's crazy because as you go through these morphings, you're either going to see who's like part of your tribe or those who you don't fit with anymore. And they've either outgrown you or you've outgrown them, and both are fine and they're going to peel off. So your whole team's
Mhm.
going to shift, Ashley. The whole team, the whole dynamics are going to shift into the team that can carry two practices rather than just one. It's not going to fit every person. And that's a hard thing to let go of. But when we can realize like that's normal and that should happen, and we need that to happen for growth, then it can be a little bit easier. It's not easy in the interim, it's hard. And you've got to have people that can like keep you laser focused and targeted, which is why I'm super excited to come out and see you. Because I think sometimes that perspective of like, let's just pull these pieces, this is normal, it doesn't negate the feelings, but helping you realize perspective can also be very freeing during these times.
No, I love that so much. I wrote so many notes that I'm just going to repeat back for all of you listening because here is like a wealth of knowledge. Fall in love with what is, fall in love with the failures, take a step back. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There is beauty in the mess, and we need to slough off the old me. That is so, oh, gosh, I think I myself, there really is a period of mourning that has to
Mm-hmm.
come with change because you are that old you, and I'm gonna relate back to your podcast that you did with me. Just that old Kiera when you were going through your stuff, like she's not there anymore. Like this is the new Kiera, and I have to create her. I have to
Mm-hmm.
make her what I know she has potential to be. And how do you, man, how do you reconcile being or wanting to be like that empathic CEO with obviously making the hard choices of, you know, we have to protect the baby, we have to protect the business, and that's a note that I kept writing over and over again in my notes from Business Mastery is baby needs to eat first. Like, obviously, you have seen a tremendous growth period in your business, Kiera, and I'm so happy that we're talking about this because I want to know what Kiera has learned from when Dental 18 was a newborn to now. Like, you're running a multi-million dollar consulting agency, and you have over 35 employees now. Is that right? Or
Oh,
more?
I wish. We're like 10. Girl, no, I'm always like, we should
Oh,
have 35. And I'm like, no, we're only 10. And we're like scrapping it. And I'm like, whoa, we're
yeah,
in 4 states. And like,
yeah.
and I think like I've got this puny business. Like, oh, but I'm like, but it's not that. It's not the comparison. Comparison is going to steal it all. So no, I don't have 35. So continue on. Only 10, currently 10,
Only
still in the market for like 5 more. So if you know those people, send them our way. But we're always looking.
nice. But what
Yeah. But I,
what
go
what
ahead.
does your CEO mindset look like now? Like obviously you've had I'm sure you've had some turnover, whether it was you
Mhm.
or the people you've worked with. Like are you how involved are you now at making those hard decisions when you're looking at the numbers?
Yeah, so it's funny we're talking this because truthfully, Ashley, I'm going through a sloughing myself right now and I'm shifting myself right now. And I feel like the identity piece, like my team coming in and realizing they can run a retreat as a company and not need me, literally I cried the 2 weeks ago, cried because I just felt like, what is my place even? Who am I? And I realized I was going from a manager to a CEO. And I didn't like that's
Mm,
an awkward shift to go because I don't even know what a CEO looks like. Like I'm wandering around like in the clouds. Like I don't even know what the heck I'm supposed to do currently. But it's this moment of knowing I've been working so hard for this and then it's here. So baby Kiera was like baby CEO is trying to be a manager and trying to be everything to all people. Absolutely, we've had turnover. I've had turnover this year. I've had to make some really hard decisions this year. But I also have been so committed that I'm like, no, I need a team that can carry this that's not reliant on me anymore. And that's a hard shift because that goes from me being like a teammate and I'm like a colleague with you and I'm here to be your best friend to there's a lot of bigger pieces that I need to take on and tackle that I can't be your colleague. So it's this like weird, like empathetic, but also I have a little sign here. It came from Keith Cunningham that the road less stupid,
I
and he says
love
CEOs do
him.
your job. I
Mm.
love him. And he just
I
said, like,
love
"CEOs
him.
do your job." And I just thought like, well, what is my job? And a CEO's job is to like control culture and morale,
Mhm.
to always be looking at vision and to protect profitability. Like that at the end of the day is my core role and no one else in the company is doing it. And Ashley, when I realized no one else is doing that, but I could hire everyone else to do all the other things I was doing, no one's going to set culture like I will. No one's going to set vision like I will. And no one's going to protect profitability like I will. Those are my three core pieces. And yes, I'm still a consultant. So that's like the dentist piece of that. But realistically, I had to realize like, Kiera, you have a choice here. Where do you ultimately want to go? And I really have to sink into what's the true vision, Ashley, and then like let myself have those sad days, let myself have those hard times. Like you said, mourning. I remember my mom when I was going through everything. She's like, "Kiera, I just can't wait for the old Kiera to come back." And I remember the day
Mhm.
like I was so distinct. I was in my closet talking to my mom, and I'm like, "Mom, that version of me is never coming back." And it breaks my heart just as
Mm.
much as I'm sure it breaks your heart. But I, like you said, it is a mourning. It's this loss of like it was comfortable. It was easy. Like having one practice is way easier than having two. Having one state of employees is way easier than four. Having the
Yeah.
legal value of like, I've got to take care of four state laws versus just one. But that's not what I was called to do. That's not what I feel in my soul. And I know it was greater and bigger things. And I know there's more people I'm there to serve. And so for
Mhm.
that cause, I can sit here and I can either play small or I can play big, and neither one's right and neither one's wrong. It's just right now, who do I want to be and what am I willing to do to get there? And so for me, I'm like, Kira, you have to grow. Do you think as a baby you had fun falling over constantly trying to learn to walk? No. But do I'm so grateful that I know how to walk and run versus just crawling and sitting there. And I feel like that's how it is in business. Like, I want to be able to walk, I want to be able to run, and that's going to require me to fall down so many times. And I'm going to have to fail. I'm going to have to make the wrong decisions. And guess what? Maybe some of the people I let go were wrong, but I made a decision and I moved forward and I learned more from making that decision than sitting there stagnant. And so realizing like there have been days I talked to Britt last year. We fired someone at retreat last year, Ashley. I hate retreat. Like retreat feels cursed to me and it's supposed to be the happiest time. And I let someone go before they went to their first Disneyland experience. And I had a moment of, Kira, you are the worst freaking boss in the world. Like, couldn't you just have let her go? And I'm like, I could have. I could have let this person come into our team, but my whole team watched this person not embody who we are as a company, completely blatantly disregarded our team, our culture, and our values. And I had a moment right there of, you either are going to be the CEO or you're going to be a friend. And who are you going to be and what example are you going to show? And so I think it's also training too. I think it's building up
Mhm.
the CEO muscle that's not God given to any of us. Like this is
Mm-mm.
learning, this is growing. And so it's constantly building that CEO muscle. And for me, I've determined I'm going to be empathetic, I'm going to be loving, I'm going to be a ton of fun, and I'm going to protect the three things that I'm responsible for. Because if I show ownership there, my team will take ownership too. It's been 2 years, Ashley, in the making to find an operations person. I have like gut, sweat, tears. I've tried to hire people. I've gone to other industries. I've taken courses. I've paid exorbitant amounts of money, like huge amounts of money for people to come in, and they still didn't work. And I realized, like, but I'd rather keep trying than sit here and not try. So baby Kira was someone who was afraid to make decisions. Baby Kira was like, I want to be everyone's friends and I'd rather be friends than take care of the business. And CEO Kira today, who coaches people now and like has learned with you, is my job is to be a CEO and no one else is doing that. Let me empower my team to do jobs and tasks that I truly don't have time to do, because my job is to create new ideas. Ashley, no one else in that company is thinking of building the next business. No one else has that vision for it. That is Ashley Hovis's number one objective. And if you don't
Mm.
do it, no one else is going to. And we delegate and hire out the rest, and we give ourselves time of like, it's going to take time. This isn't a flip of the wrist. Let's do this tomorrow. It's a, like, I don't want to say lifelong process, but it is. The business is an ever growing, breathing person. And when you see the business as like another person at the table, it becomes easier to take care of it, becomes easier to feed it, to nurture it, to give it what it needs for sustainability. Because the thing that keeps me up at night the most is if I let this business fail, I've let
Yeah.
every team member fail. And
Yeah.
so that is my number one job to do. And then you got to also have friends. You got to have people that you can have these convos with, the people that will build you up, that will give you the tangibles. I call friends, and Also, my friend group has changed, Ashley. I have to keep, like, that's why I go to Tony Robbins, because I need people that are in my shoes, that have done it and done it successfully, that can mentor me, that can walk me through it, that can hold my hand when I'm like, I am not firing this person. I'm like, Kiera, you got to, let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or giving me the perspective of where I really want to go, and reminding me of, like, these hard days are what I signed up for when I said I want to own a business. These hard days and these growth days, because there's about 10% of those days compared to the 90% of awesome days. And I think we often magnify the bad days and forget how many good days there are. And Jason, my husband, texted me the other day. He said, Kiera, you better enjoy this while you can, because this isn't going to be your life forever. And I had not
Mm.
thought about that of, I'm not going to have, like, Ashley, you're not going to have a brand new business forever. You're not going to have this CEO role forever. Like, this is a season that will come and go, and who knows how long we get to ride this journey. But let's make it the best journey we possibly can. Like, overwhelm, ooh, this is coming in a little spicier. And so I hope it comes with, like, spice, but like a huge hug of love. I feel overwhelmed's a choice because we're not willing to delegate and lean on our team because we don't think we can give it to them, versus empowering our team or hiring the people we need and committing that we're not going to live in overwhelm. Like, breaking it down, spending the time. What do I need to get rid of? What can I shell off? What's truly important right now versus what can wait? And I think we take that on as perfectionists rather than realizing, like, what's the bare minimum that's going to keep me sane for the long haul. And then I'll add on the bigger pieces later on. So I feel like there's a lot of pieces in there and hopefully something connected. But truly, I just feel like your job's to be a CEO. Your job's to ride the ride. Your job's to set that culture. Your job's to set the vision and protect profitability. And I'm like, guess what? Profitability is maybe not going to look the same as it did. It shouldn't. You just brought on a whole new business. Let's keep it to where we, like, are going to sleep at night, and then we're going to
Yeah.
grow it, and it's going to be exponentially blossomed, but we're not going to get there without the struggle first. And we can truly love the struggle while going through it. I think that that's a discipline and a mindset and a skill we develop. It's not one that we just naturally have.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, here, whenever I listen to you, I feel like you're my Tony Robbins. You're Tony Toni. Tony, you're the female version for me. You're so man, like you're so level headed in your thoughts, and it's so nice to just bounce ideas off of you always, because so much of my mindset is fear based, and I know that we need to hire another person, another admin in our new office.
Mm-hmm.
But then part of me says, okay, well, if we have to protect the baby, profitability is already going down because I've now opened this new office, and that's not fair to the business. But like, how do you reconcile when to take the leap of growing, and while still knowing that all of those all of that ROI is going to come back to you tenfold, because that's where
Sure.
I struggle with.
Yeah. So numbers, I love, Ashley. And thank you. Like, that's a huge compliment to be Tony Robbins. Like, I love Tony so much. And
Me
I love
too.
having people like you, like, let's just talk about this and let's empower each other. And then let's have tactical pieces. So it's not just like mindset, but 90% of the game is mindset. So if we can get that
Yep.
straight, and focus on where we're going, the rest of it's going to come. And so with that, I love numbers, Ashley. So right now I'm in a very similar spot. We're in massive growth mode at Dental A Team right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, squeeze my cheeks together and like grin and bear it. Like, I'm scared out of my freaking
Yeah.
mind. But what I do is I actually have all of my costs on a spreadsheet, like, truth be told, because if I can see the numbers and I know exactly what my true BAM, like bare ace, we said ace, guys, minimum, then we know exactly where, like, where is my break even point, Ashley? And like, what do I have to do? And then I also, this is going to sound sick. Like, I'm just going to tell you what's real though. I have a cut list, Ashley. So if the business gets to a spot, and I remember my coach told me this, she's like, Kiera, you have to know in order of who are you firing first. That feels
Mm.
disgusting because I love people so much. But again, business first, because I'd rather cut a few team members and keep 90% of them versus holding on to 100% and losing the business and losing it for everyone. So I have my whole cost list. Then I go through and I play around constantly of like, okay, if I hired this person, what's it going to cost and can I truly afford it? And for me, like minimum, no ifs, ands, or buts, I got to have like 20 to 30 grand. And now that could be skewed. We run about 150,000 of payroll. So just to give perspective, like it's very high payroll. I don't have a building. Like
Yeah.
that's the bulk of my cost as a company. Payroll should be about 30% of it. But when you're hiring, it's going to be higher. And when you're in growth mode, your profitability
Yeah.
is going to be junk. So for me, 5 to 10% profitability, like a really successful business, if they can hit 20% profit margins, rock on, they're doing great. That's different from overhead because that's paying doctors and there's like a bajillion different ways you can do it. But for me, I like doctors paid, taxes, like all the shebang, and we sit with a 20% profit so we can reinvest. Like that's a good, healthy, stable business. But from there, if you're growing, like as long as we're like 2, 3, 5, 10% profit, and you got to determine what can give you the emotional ROI at night of where you can
Mm-hmm.
sleep. For me, I also have savings. So I have 3 to 6 months of savings constantly. And I know that 3 to 6 months, if I scrap down, could last me another 7 to 10 months. And I know I can, like, 7 to 10 months, I can totally recover within that amount of time. Like that's a doable time frame for me, no matter what happens. So all of my expenses listed out, put this new hire in there. And then like right now, we're looking like to bring on another consultant. Dang, those consultants, they're like more than doctors. And I'm like, sheesh, you guys are
Yeah.
expensive. But that's the bulk of our company. So I've got to have high quality talent. I'm like, all right, we need like marketing people, we need these things. But when I look at it, I also think, how could I mitigate this? Like if cost is pretty high, I run my ideal scenario of who I'd love to have. And then I run like my must have scenario too. So I see the two different numbers, like your must have and your would love to have. And then you can figure out, okay, when I'm hitting these numbers as the business, let's bring on more people. Or could I reposition someone else and I don't have to hire this position right away? Could I outsource some things? But if you know those numbers and you've got some savings in surplus, that gives you a lot of wiggle room. And then you've got your cut list. So in case things go south, you don't have to think about the plan of what am I going to do? The plan's already there for you. And so that to me helps me not have emotional or irrational decisions, but truly like thought out before I'm in the oh shiz moment of what I'm going to do then. Like I've got my, if we hit this line, Britt and I were talking the other day and I'm like, all right, Britt, here's our numbers. We hire these people and we are like 10 grand away from like bottom up. And I sit at usually a 50% overhead and I'm like, okay. I'm like, is that too close for comfort for you? And she's like, too close for me. And I'm like, all right, so what do we do? So we strategized of how can we add more production or revenue? How can we justify these other people with easy things? Could you bring in another skill set? Ashley, could you go and bust it out with heavy production 1, 2, 3 days a month to offset that additional cost? Like, how can we make this number a reality? And maybe there is no way. And so it's like, yeah, we do need to sit and wait. But 99% of the time, there is an easy way, especially within dentistry. Consulting's a little trickier. Dentistry, I'm like, that's like a couple crowns and you can afford a front desk girl. Like you go do 2 more crowns a month and your front desk person is paid for. And so in dentistry, I like to break it down of what's the cost? How many procedures do you realistically need to do? Let's make that happen. That's super easy in dentistry to be able to find. So that's how I would map it. Know your numbers, play with it of your
Mm-hmm.
ideal versus your top line, look to see what your BAM is, set up some slush, make your cut list, and then jump in and go for it.
Ah, man, can I get super tactical with you? I'm going to pick your
Of course,
consulting hat. Um,
go for it. I'm
okay,
ready for it.
so this is why I love this. Take some notes if you're a dentist, because so my first office, our first location, we were in network with Delta, and then we made
Mm-hmm.
the decision we're going to get out of network with Delta. That was last September. So basically, we're approaching a year now of being out of network.
Yep.
Our um, our numbers have dropped. We've had some, obviously, we've had attrition because it's hard for people to, in California, you have to pay upfront for the whole shebang, not just
Yep.
the copay. And, um, and now we're just seeing like, okay, so we went from running 6 columns. Not even, I had, at one point, we had 3 full-time hygienists, Kiera. We could not even get our patients back for PTs unless it was like 6 to 8 weeks out. And then for new patients, we couldn't get new patients in for months. And
Same.
now when I look at fulsome schedule, there's holes everywhere,
Mhm.
and then the doctor's production is also, like it's just really sad to see what
Sure.
Smile and Co used to be and now what it is. And now I'm wondering, okay, at what point? So we ran through the numbers, and we did have, even though we lost people, we lost
Mhm.
those patients coming in. The numbers itself have not dropped too
Totally.
significantly, which is also it's a plus for sure. But we are
Mhm.
seeing more and more holes because now it's a year. And so people are now noticing, okay, well, Delta's reimbursement does really suck. And now I don't know if I can continue to see them for care.
Sure.
Where do I where do I make that line in the sand of pivoting? Like, do I
Mhm.
get back in network? Do I
Mm.
cut hours? Do I cut days? So that's where I'm at. And of course, I'm coming at it like, oh my gosh, we need to make changes ASAP
Yes.
because I'm a dentist and I hate holes. I fill holes.
Totally.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We fill
Right.
holes. So, and then Brian, my amazing husband, is like, okay, can you just breathe for a second? Your numbers have not changed significantly. Yes,
Mhm.
you are seeing holes, but you need to ride this wave and commit. So as a consultant, how long do I ride this wave? Because he just says,
Ooh.
you need to market more. You need to be targeting those ideal clients that you want to come in. So I'm curious
Got it.
as to what Kiera Dent, the amazing consultant, would advise.
Oh, well, your husband's super smart and kudos to you. This is where numbers come back. Like I used to hate numbers and I'm just going to say like the numbers will tell you when you need to make the changes. And that's why I love it because numbers don't lie and numbers are the same in every language. So reality is we've got to know our BAM. Like how much do you actually
Yeah.
need to make a month? Holes feel scary because you're used to having this jam-packed schedule, but holes aren't necessarily bad if we're productive and profitable. Like, I'd rather have a chill day and make the same amount of money than having this psychotic day and make less money. So we just have to look to see realistically what is the true number you have to make. And so for dentists, if your overhead is 50,000, my number for you is you got to be producing 100,000. I like there to be a 50% overhead. That's different than profitability. I've done two different numbers for you, but like for simplicity, if you're doing 50,000 in cost of the business, you got to be producing 100,000. That's what I like to do. It's not 100% realistic. Some people run it at 65% overhead. So just realize like, but I like to have a little more profitability cushion there because I might need to use that profitability to go then pump into the marketing to bring more patients in. Also, I'd look to see at my new patient numbers and I would track those new patient numbers, Ashley. Like, we've got to figure out how many true new patients do you have to have. Dentists are obsessed with this, like, lovingly ego of like, I have this many new patients, but you
Yeah.
might not need that many new patients to fulfill the number you need to produce. So, we've just got to know those baseline numbers. Once you know, what do I truly have to produce a month? How many new patients do I need to keep that going? And the way you figure out your new patients is two things, especially in a fee for service practice. Do we need X number of new patients that do X procedure? So like for some offices, they need like 20 new patients because they're only going to close two of those because they're doing these huge implant consults that are 50,000 each. Well, it's very different if you're not doing those. Maybe we're attritioning out 15 patients. So we want to make sure we're bringing in at least 20 patients a month. So the patients that are leaving, we're not declining, but we're growing. So really just look at your practice and what you need. Then from there, once you know that, yes, there are options to go back and network with Delta, but realize you go back and network with Delta, you've got to see more patients than you've been seeing because you've got to offset the cost. So it's really this like balance. And when you go out of network, it can be hard and scary. But when you're out of network, you do have to work harder to bring in more patients, to retain those patients, and to provide them a higher level of service. Like that's bottom line. They're paying for the experience. They're not paying because you're in network anymore. So those are some things as like team trainings that I would do of how can we get more referrals of these patients? How can we make these patients want to stay sticky to our practice? Is that a membership plan? Can we do a VIP concierge service that doesn't cost us anything, but makes the experience for them more elite and more prestigious that they would want to stay with us. You got to find a way to get them sticky to you because they're no longer sticky and they can leave at any moment. So on that, like once you know those numbers, then monthly, it's not like I got to fill the holes. We just have to hit these numbers and we'll be fine. That could be adding on extra treatment. It could be going back through the archives. A lot of people don't realize your patient base is sitting there prime, ready to go, that there's so much treatment in there. If we just go back, like maybe you want to run an Invisalign promotion if you do ortho in there. I've got some offices that literally crank thousands every quarter because they run these Invisalign promos. They go call the patients who are interested, tell them for this week only, and they get them to close. So that's then where we get scrappy and strategic to figure out what is really the makeup that we need. How often do we need to run promos or different things versus just bringing on more new patients? Yes, targeting for fee for service is harder. Yes, not just taking every single person is harder, but we don't want to just live on these harder procedures. We want to have a good mix of general patients and then these other ones sprinkle in of higher production, but we don't live on these because we can make it on this. It's kind of like we live on our income, and then those extra bonuses, or like when you get tax, like I don't even know what that's called because I haven't gotten one in years, but like when you pay for taxes and they give you your tax refund check, I think is what it is. But like we don't plan our life for those. Those are just bonuses, just like we shouldn't plan our production based on these extra procedures. So that's how I would look at it. And I know that's a little maybe more in depth than you were looking for, but know the baseline number,
No, I love
know
it.
how many new patients you need to feed that. And then the holes, high five, do extra dentistry, do same day dentistry for them, give them an incredible experience. But I don't usually think going back in network's the option. For a new practice, I might consider in network because you can just pump a ton of new patients in there very quickly, build it up, and it's not as scary because you're not having to do the marketing plus trying to like run this business and you got high overhead. So sometimes being in network for new businesses can be easier, but like you're there. And then the answer is, when do you stop riding the wave? Is if I go 1 to 2 months, my number one rule, Ashley, in business is I never lose money. So that's a rule. I don't lose money and I won't lose money. So if I'm getting close to my line, at that point, I'm going to know my cutoff. So what's my trigger? So if I get down to where we're only being profitable, say 5%, or my overhead's up to 80%, which to me, that feels like I would die. I would probably stop at 70% because I want a 30% buffer, whatever you are comfortable with. Some people will run to 70, some will run to 80, but what's our game plan at that point? Is it we go back in network immediately and we've got that ready to go? Is it that we call all these patients? Like, what's the game plan then? Because then you have freedom. You know exactly what you're going to do at that trigger point, and you have a trigger point, and then it's not scary. Ride the wave. But once the wave hits this point, this is what we're going to do.
Okay. Thank you, Kiera.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.